Hello, and well, this is Mad Cat, the angry egalitarian that discusses this and that. Today, we are looking at the men's rights survey and non-feminist women's survey as well, and discussing about why women are not feminists. And remember, feminists, there's a reason why women are not feminists. Insulting them won't make them become feminist again. So, I am joined today with Cassie, also known as End Feminism 2015. How are you doing, Cassie?
I'm pretty good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing well. So, I'm sure many of you know she is a very popular girl on YouTube, that she has a wonderful channel where she talks a lot about feminists and all of their stupid, stupid ways. Care to share a few words about your channel?
Fuck. Well, I started it in March and was kind of surprised at the popularity it gained. But I've been having a lot of fun with it. I've been learning lots. People send me really great shit. Kind of slow at replying though. But yeah, I talk about various things that come into me, like feminism and science. That was my favorite because I love science. I want to be a theoretical astrophysicist, and yeah, all that jazz.
All right, very good. So we're going to get started with the survey now. I just want to let everyone know I am taking a look at the chat itself. So if you have any questions for Cassie or myself, but let's face it, for Cassie, go ahead and put it in the chat, and I will try to get to it as best as I can. But we do have a lot of things to discuss today. Let me just go ahead and get one thing moved over. All right, so now we'll do the screen share. Not the full screen. There we go. All right, can you see that, Cassie?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do a quick refresh. I know a couple of people from the chat room have taken this survey. Want to make sure that their opinion gets noticed. So 538. I believe when I last did one of these videos, we were reaching up close to 500. So I'm very proud of that number right now. I do know, though, that Takedown MRA, I hate to mention their name, but they did a little bit of a campaign suggesting people take this survey in order to help me. I put that in air quotes. So I think that has bolstered this number up a little bit, but I don't think that their results really have affected this survey all that much. I think at best 30 people might have taken this survey trying to disrupt it, but I hope as they took it a little bit more seriously. But then what's 30 people compared to 500? So as we can see with this first graph here, we have about 283 men and 244 women, and 4 that are intersexed. I do know with the last video we had females predominantly taking this survey over men. Men seem to have come back up top. And as far as gender identity, nearly 300 identify as men compared to this number up here. Let's go ahead and scroll down a little bit. Now, I do know that before feminism was at 9%. That number, when I first started with all of this number was at 35, and it's now at 60. So, but these numbers have also improved as well, so it's not like just one placement. But like I said, I mean, we have 213 that say they're anti-feminist, 363 that are egalitarian. All honesty, I want feminists to take this. I want them to be honest too. And I want them to see all of the things that this survey goes over to understand what it is that we're really talking about here. We don't just hate feminism because, well, that's the popular thing to do. There's actually issues going on here. Let's go ahead and move on to the questions for the day. Now, I have divided these up, and I'll read a few of them at a time just to make this go by a little bit quicker. You're not choking over there, are you?
No, I'm good. I've been breathing in insulation, so it's a little funny.
I'd hate for you to die on this channel, mostly because I would be known as the guy that killed Cassie, so.
It was work that killed me, not you. Promise.
Okay, so women who are not feminist. Now, before I go to these questions, I do want to read from here. This is basically a comment section that women could have posted about why did they stop identifying with feminism. And I'd love to do this as a separate video, but I'm going to read one of these that I conveniently highlighted so I could find again. I identified as a feminist over 25 years ago, and the values I believed in as a feminist are the same ones I believe in now. But over the last few years, I've come to realize that those values that I and my teenage feminist friends held were not shared by the large majority of feminists, nor by the actual shakers and movers and shakers at the head of the feminist organization. I spent those years trying to stand up to the bad feminists and got bullied and banned for my trouble. Finally, I just gave up. Feminists I still respect talk about the movement being taken over from the inside and twisted and redefined into a toxic power grab. And while I wish them all the best in fighting the good fight, I've just burned out. As far as I'm concerned, they've already won. Why stay where I'm not welcome? I still have the same ideals as I did when I was a feminist, but I found far more people who share those ideals who call themselves MRA and egalitarians. I think that is a very good representation of what it is that we're doing and what we'll be going over today. So let us go ahead and get started. We'll start with the first one. Did you ever identify as a feminist? As we can see here, about 56%, 56% stated that yes, they had identified with feminists at one point in time. Now, I went ahead and put these into an Excel spreadsheet so I can analyze these numbers a little bit more. They might be a bit different because we did have a number of people suddenly take this, which I'm thankful for, but if it seems like they're a little bit off, that's the reason why. So just to let everyone know. So we'll go to the next one, and then I'll turn it over to our guest and let her speak for a little bit. Why do you not identify with feminism?
Well,
Now, well, let me go ahead and read this little list here, and then I'll turn it to you, okay? Okay, so the top reason, and I'll read a couple of these, you can kind of read them the rest yourself. But the top reasons I disagree with how feminism handles or does not handle its radicals. 87% of the people basically said that. This was multiple choice, so people could click whatever they wanted. 74%, I disagree with the priorities of feminism. 53%, I do not want to be associated with a movement with a history of homophobia. 53% said a history of transphobia. And 52% said, I disagree with the core feminist theories. So what about you, Cassie? Have you ever identified as a feminist? And also, why don't you identify as a feminist now?
I actually never did identify as a feminist. I only really started hearing about feminism more in the last year and a half. But growing up, anyone I hung out with ever talked about or cared about was gay rights, and nobody ever felt that as a woman as women, we were oppressed. As females, we had issues. We never felt like we didn't have equal rights or anything. That wasn't something I grew up around. Yeah, as I mentioned in the last, or in my 5K video, I just found an article, and it didn't really make sense to me. So I started looking into that, ran into things like the yes means yes law, and once I started reading that and trying to like imagine what kind of position that would put a guy into, that's really what put the turning point. That's when I actually put a final position on whether or not I would identify as one. Pretty sure if anyone asked me before I had started looking into it, I probably would have said, well, yeah, why not, kind of deal. But it was never something I actually gave a shit about. I didn't use computers or anything before I got into this, actually. I am an absolute technophobe, so I never heard about this kind of stuff until recently, actually. But that's pretty much where I got started. There's a whole bunch of different reasons, just reading different incentives and how they don't apply equally to each gender or whatever, and how, like, basically theorizing what the effects of certain incentives would have and stuff. Yeah, that kind of built my stance on it. Yeah.
Well, while this is directed more specifically to women, I will comment that the big one for me, well, of course, I don't really identify myself as a feminist because I am male. But, you know, I could technically be a male feminist, even though some feminists say that they don't actually count. For me, my biggest problem with the feminist movement is that they don't really handle its radicals at all, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But I mean, that's the one thing about the men's rights movement that I respect a lot, is that they do try to handle their radicals within the movement. They do try to police themselves. Not always successfully, but they do try, which is more than what I can say for feminism.
Mm-hmm. Definitely call each other out more often. I do start arguments between feminists, or used to on my Instagram account. It's pretty hilarious when I'd see, like, when I have a post and like one feminist would say one thing and another one would just say the complete opposite. I'd be like, well, this feminist here, and then they would get into this huge fucking catfight. It was hilarious. Then it'd be like screenshot, post it, and be like, yo guys, there's an argument over here. Watch this. I'm dick.
All right, so let's go through the next set of questions, and I'll read a couple of these, and then we'll just go ahead and discuss them. Have you ever been, successfully or unsuccessfully, guilted into identifying with feminism? As we see here, about 58.3% have said yes to that. Very unfortunate. Have you ever been told that you don't know what real feminism is by feminists? About 82.6% said yes. Have you ever been told that you should be grateful to feminism by feminists? 78.9% said yes. Have you ever been told to support feminism because of the accomplishment of past feminist waves? 83.8% said yes. I'm starting to notice a pattern here. What are your thoughts on these?
I have had pretty much all of that except being guilted into. I've never actually ever pretended I supported feminism or felt like I should or anything really. It's just not something that ever came up before. But yeah, I've been told pretty much I have to be a feminist because of things that happened in the past, like the voting rights and things. Except in Canada, women were only given the voting rights so that they would vote in conscription during one of the world wars. Had nothing to do with feminism.
Okay, so the next one, which I will go ahead and field first, do radical feminists count as real feminists? And 79.8% say yes to this. Now, this is a big one for me, mostly because I feel like what we consider to be the radical feminists is what I think is the actual feminists. And in previous videos, I have stated that these feminists are the only ones that are actually doing something in the name of feminism. And they are actually hurting humans. They are anti-humanitarian because they're doing things against men, such as, shutting down men's shelters, supporting women who cry false rape, making sure that men cannot be fathers or taking their children away from them. They are out there doing all of these things, and yet these other feminists that are supposed to be the real ones, all they're doing is saying, well, you don't know what feminism is. And it's like, how can you not answer for all the crap that's being done in your movement? And instead of addressing that, you're coming at me saying, I don't know what feminism is. Seems like I know what feminism is and you don't.
Much, yeah.
Cassie, any thoughts?
Well, they always love to refer to the dictionary definition, and according to the dictionary, a feminist is anyone who supports feminism. So it doesn't matter what they do a little extra. You can't decide who or what people are allowed to support. They're not a fucking dictator. You don't get to decide how people live their life and what they're allowed to support just because they say a little extra that some people don't like. They're feminists if they support feminism. That's that.
There is a comment from the chat here that I want to address by Nemesis Diablo. Again, if you're watching, go ahead and leave a comment in here and I'll try to read it. I found an article that about the vasectomy and needing your wife to sign off on it. I don't know if I can if I can link it here. No, you can't generally link it here, but I am very aware of that the only way you can get a vasectomy, because it's this belief that if you're a man and you're within a certain age range that you should procreate, you can't choose not to. Even if you're single, you cannot get a vasectomy. Unless you're either very old or your wife signs off on it. So that is really fucked up that happens.
That is insane. Nobody says women can't take birth control.
Well, and the fun thing is that feminists are against the idea of men having birth control.
Yeah, I've had so many arguments with feminists about that, and it's like their response to like an accidental pregnancy is, oh well, he should have used a condom, and it's like, what the fuck? How can you argue against men having birth control and then basically using it against them for unplanned pregnancies, because men have no option of opting out like women do. Women have full choice on that. If they want to adopt their child, have their child adopted instead of keeping it, the guy has no say in that either.
Well, and what's worse is that the whole condom excuse is not really an excuse, because there are reports of women who take sperm from condoms and insert it in themselves to get pregnant. Or women finding other ways of stealing sperm. So
I heard one woman kept semen in her fucking mouth and got pregnant off of it.
Yeah.
That's just straight fucked.
And it's generally suggested that if you are meeting some random girl and you have sex with her, bring a plastic baggie with you. And when you're done having sex with her, take your condom and put it into that plastic baggie. Don't flush it down the toilet, because if she really wants to, she probably sets something up to prevent it from flushing. Don't throw it in the trash, because she can always take it out. You know, be extra vigilant with that shit. All right, let's go ahead and move on here to the next section. A couple of fun ones here. Have you ever been told that you must want to be stuck in traditional gender roles because you're not a feminist? 67.4% said yes to that. Have you ever been told that you're working against your own self-interest by not being a feminist? 79.1% said yes to that. Do you think you're working against your own self-interest by not being a feminist? 92.9% said no, they're not working against their self-interest, although we do have 10 that say that yes, they are working against their own self-interest. I wonder who these people were. And lastly, do you think feminism is a good representation of your interests? 88.8% said yes, 2.9% said, no, 88.8% said no. That would have been funny. And 2.9% said yes. So, what are your thoughts, Cassie?
I don't find that feminism is at all representative of myself. It does not say, it doesn't speak anything that I want to. Even their rhetoric and stuff is so completely female based. It says nothing about, like, I'm a mom, I have a son, I want my son to do well, but they do nothing to help my son. That's not, they're not at all representing any of my interests whatsoever. All they're doing is creating problems in a shitty world for my son to grow up in.
Yeah, I often love finding those articles where women are like, "Oh yeah, I was this like big time feminist, and then my son gets accused of rape at school, and now I'm starting to see everything." And it's like, you probably were one of those bitches who was like, "Oh yeah, any man accused of rape is a rapist," until it happened to your own son, and then you grew a conscience.
It's terrible. Yeah, a lot of people are just in it for themselves, basically.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate, honestly. Because, I feel sometimes that there are women out there that claim to be feminists that genuinely believe that they're doing something right in the world. Unfortunately, there are a lot of bad people that are using it as an excuse to be special.
Yeah. There's a lot of, like, on Instagram, like, I have friends who are feminists. They identify as feminists, but, like, they'll take my posts and then use them to explain why we need to fix feminism, kind of deal. I don't really believe in that. I don't support that or support their, like, I think it's cool that they want to try and do that, but I don't really support that at all because I think that having some good people still in the movement is going to give people, or give those fucked up feminists, the majority of the feminists, the ones actually doing shit, it's going to basically give them a justification for what they're doing. Because there are some still good feminists.
Yeah, I do believe, honestly, that there are some good feminists out there. I mean, Christina Hoff Sommers is the first that comes to mind, but other people than her, I do think, but they are a vast minority.
Oh, yeah.
So let's go ahead and move on. Yo to you, Max Derat. Never know if I say that name correctly. All right. So, have you ever been told how you should feel as a woman by feminist women? 73.4% said yes, they have. Have you been told how you should feel as a woman by feminist men? 53.3% say yes. Now, I find this a little interesting because I've heard that a lot of the social justice warriors out there, especially that are anti-Gamergate, are actually white men that are trying to white knight for the feminist movement. So I do find this a bit surprising that it seems that more feminist women are trying to guilt women into feminism than feminist men. What are your thoughts on that, Cassie?
I know I get a lot less male feminists, and usually they just try to agree with me or they just give up and go away from the debate. They don't generally try to stick it out. They give up pretty fast. Actually, they're fucking pathetic. They never stay in debates for very long. I know, like, I've had a few try and tell me, like, no, you're so oppressed. Your life is so hard because you may potentially get catcalled. And it's like, do you even fucking know what a catcall is? And they assume it's like stalking. and touching, and it's like that. No, that's sexual harassment. That's stalking. There's already laws against that. That's not catcalling. Catcalling is somebody driving 60 kilometers the other fucking direction, yelling something stupid out of their window, and it's fucking over and done with.
There's a question in chat from Why Not? What wrongs are left to be righted in North America and Europe, Mad Cat? To what respect? Wrongs to be righted for the feminist movement? Like, what are the feminists still fighting for, or men's rights? Because those are two very distinctly different answers. So while we wait for Why Not to address that, we'll go ahead and move on to the next section. We're moving through these pretty quickly. All right, so the next one is, do you feel as though feminism as a whole supports non-feminist women? 94% outstandingly says no, they do not. The next one was a bit of a multiple choice, so I did a little bit of analysis for this. Why do you think non-feminist women, what do you think non-feminist women are met with by feminists? About 3% said with kindness. About 3.8% said, well, somewhere in between. And 93.2% say hostility. What's your take on this, Cassie?
I have never had, or no, once, a feminist did not treat me with hostility, other than the ones that I get along with regularly. But usually it's, yeah, the only girl, she didn't really say much about it. She just said, you have the right to say what you want, so I will leave it at that, and I'm not going to delete you off Facebook like all the other people have done. When I first started, I got deleted by a bunch of people on Facebook, and they like made a big stink about it and were like commenting on my posts and shit. But this one girl, some girl I barely even knew, hadn't spoken to in years, just commented, just say like, okay, you have the right to say what you want, I'm a feminist, but you do your thing, kind of deal. And that was actually one of the nicest comments, first approaches I've ever actually received from a feminist. But I generally get a lot of fucking hostility. The other day, or a few weeks ago, I woke up to one girl fucking commenting on all my shit, saying that I need to be strapped to bombs, that I need to go kill myself, and I'm a fucking cunt. And then she wrote fucking cunt like 50 times on one post. It was so stupid. But yeah, most of my response is generally something like that.
Yeah, I hate when feminists do that. I like to use cunt as a term of endearment. So, Why Not has responded back to us. He or she, I'm not really sure, stated, I meant regarding feminism, not men's rights. So what is there left to fight for feminism? There really isn't too much in the first world anymore for feminists to fight about. They pretty much have everything. About the only thing that I can really think of that is a legitimate fight, and Cassie, feel free to correct me on this, is the issue of abortion. Now, whether or not you agree with abortion, it is a legal right that women have. And there are places like in Texas that are trying to do everything they can to close down their centers. In fact, there was something in the news very recently how the Supreme Court had to deal with an issue of Texas trying to institute policies to try to close down about half of the centers that are remaining in Texas, which I believe is at 19 for the entire state of Texas when it comes to abortion clinics. I think that's really about the only issue that feminists have really to fight about in the first world.
With the way that feminists argue abortion, like I am pro-choice ultimately. However, how feminists discuss abortion, I really don't agree with. I think that accountability and responsibility should be key. You know for a fact that a common result of sex is pregnancy. The only way you can get pregnant is by having sex. You know exactly what the fuck you're getting into. Recognize it. But yes, I do agree that there are issues, that there are reasons why abortion is needed. But in Canada, where I live, it is completely free and completely anonymous. And growing up, I never had an abortion, but I know a lot of girls who had more than one or more than two before they turned 18 years old. They never had to talk to their parents about it. Their parents had no idea they were having all this sex because all they had to do, walk into a clinic, didn't even have to really put their name down because nobody knew about it unless they told them specifically. And girls here are fucking gross. There's like, there are too many abortion stories. There are girls who go around here basically bragging about their fucking abortions. It's disgusting. Like, I don't think I could ever have one. I've never been in a situation where I had to make that kind of decision. But yeah, I don't like it being completely free. I think that there should be like kind of a limit, like a penalty fee, like $100, nothing too expensive. But to just make people actually think about what they're doing, because it's replacing birth control, because it's free. You have more access to abortion than birth control in this country, and it's disgusting what these girls are actually doing to themselves and how they are using this free abortion and completely anonymous abortion.
So, loose women are in Canada. Good to know. I completely agree with you right there. Right now, I'm kind of like in between pro-choice and pro-life. And I'd probably be a little bit more pro-life in the fact that with Canada, it shouldn't be free. There should be some sort of penalty to doing it. That's why it has to be an actual decision you're making and not just, oh, I think I'm pregnant, I'll get an abortion just to be sure.
Yeah, pretty much. But like,
So another comment. Go ahead.
Freaking birth control. Like, it's ridiculous. It's so easy with birth control. If you're a kid having sex, if you're under 18 having sex, and you don't want to tell your parents, then birth control is not your option if you don't want to tell your parents. But abortions are. Or if you can get one of those, get free condoms from the baskets they have at your school counselor's office. But generally, abortion is first choice for birth control here. I'm just going to grab my drink stuff.
Okay, and my good man Max was asking, where in Canada are you located? I'm not sure if you want to answer that or not.
I'm in Alberta.
Now, is it Alberta that's like the redneck center of Canada?
Oh, yeah.
Are you a redneck?
Yes, ish.
Ish. Well, you are wearing like
Cowboy boots.
jeans with holes in them and cowboy boots and
A little buckle. I work construction, so yeah, I guess so.
Hey, can I take you out for a beer later?
I don't drink beer. I just drink Jack.
Can I take you out for Jack later?
Hell yeah.
I'll be right over from Arizona.
See you in 5. Expect you here with another bottle.
All right, so let's go on to our next section. This is very fun. Do you believe that feminism is still needed in your area? Well, since we're both from two different countries, I'll answer as far as America goes. I really don't think feminism is needed here in America. And because women basically have every right you can imagine. I mean, one of my favorite questions to ask feminists is, name 5 rights that men have that women don't. And they do everything they can to avoid answering that question. And probably the only thing they'll ever name is, well, men don't have to feel scared walking down the street in the middle of the night. And it's like, yes, they do. Men are more likely to be assaulted physically or potentially murdered than women are to be raped. So, no feminist has ever really convinced me that there's really a need for feminism other than the fact that they want to feel special. So I don't think feminism is really needed anymore. Maybe some third world countries, but not in America. What about Canada?
Definitely not needed. I don't ask them to list 5. legal rights that men have that women don't. I asked them to list one, and I still have never fucking got an answer for that. They can't name one right that men have that women don't. The closest is we don't have equal pay, except that's all fucking misleading as shit. And I usually kind of relate it to like uh, how that wage gap, how like what it doesn't counter in. I relate it to like what it would look like in Canada, because in Alberta, women will generally, well, in Alberta specifically, you get a lot of oil field workers here. So a lot of women are just housewives, or they'll open an at-home daycare center or something, and they make barely fuck all compared to what their husbands are making, who bring home like $5,000 a fucking check, 5 to 10,000 a check or whatever. And like it just, but it basically groups like these women at home fucking babysitting two other kids that aren't theirs and their husbands. They put them in the same group basically. And usually I get a pretty good response on that. Some people try to convince me that it actually that they swear it looks at women and men working the exact same job, and that it isn't so I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. It isn't so misleading. But there is no reason for feminism here. Women here have more rights than men, and it's obvious. Like, women have it a lot easier. Women get away with a lot more here. Yeah. A lot more women's shelters, a lot more access to help for women. So many different women's groups. There are programs specifically set up to help women find jobs, but there aren't any set up to help men find jobs, and women who need help will always come first before men, definitely.
So there was something that was mentioned in the chat that I kind of take personal attention to, because it deals with something that I had some involvement with. And this is said by Nemesis Diablo. Great name, by the way. Another thing that gets me is feminists say we live in a rape culture. And we won't be talking about rape culture in this list of questions, so it might be a good time to bring it up now. But every time, all they can find is false rape claims. And one time when one real rape was reported to Anita Sarkeesian on Twitter by porn star Mercedes Carrera about Cytherea being raped in her home at gunpoint with her kids, and Anita ignored Mercedes. And I do remember that very well. I was actually designed an event for Cytherea called Hope for Cytherea event. And I 100% agree that, you know, Anita really did nothing as far as help with that situation. And very few feminists that I know of did anything to help with that situation. And it wasn't even reported on the news. I mean, we have UVA being reported on the news, Duke lacrosse team reported on the news, and these incidents are false. But we get a woman who was raped in her own home that was like a room away from her own children in the house, and her husband downstairs being held at knife point, being raped by 5 boys, because they were somewhere between the ages of 16 and 20, and that gets very little attention. And what's that say for our culture, that we'd rather hear about some college co-ed possibly get raped and later turn out to be false than a woman, because she's a porn star, get ignored?
Yeah, that's absolutely terrible. I heard about that too. I'm pretty sure that these boys were actually serial rapists as well, because the only reason why they got caught was they went to another house the next night or something.
They were criminal. They were career criminals in a way. They robbed a lot of houses. I don't know if they raped anyone before, and if this was like the first time they did that or not. But yeah, they caught them because they went to a house the next night to try to rob it.
Okay. Yeah, the world we live in is fucked. We pay attention and we will sensationalize what will sell. People aren't that interested in hearing about porn star being raped unless she's going to identify as as a feminist and say that she's now going to fight the rape culture in the name of feminism. If she did that, people would actually, give a shit. She would have probably gotten some media attention, and that case would have probably been looked at a lot more. People would have actually given a fuck if she called herself a feminist and said that because this happened to me, I'm going to do things in the name of feminism or open some kind of fund or a battered women's shelter or whatever. But unless it's done in the name of feminism, nobody's going to give a fuck.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. And what pisses me off even more about the whole rape culture thing is that feminists will go out of their way to protect a woman who has knowingly committed false rape accusations and still defend her, saying, well, she needs to be protected. She's doing a service for everything. And also say shit like, well, it's better that an innocent man goes to jail than a no one going to jail. And it's like, feminists should be the ones who are pissed off more than anyone else, because they're saying that rape is a problem in this country, and that anyone who commits a false rape accusation has to be one of the worst people ever, and yet feminists defend them.
Oh yeah, they say that these women who make these false accusations are speaking for the women who never fucking went for it. The men who are falsely accused, they are they're basically it's like a justification. Like, they are living the fucking ordeal that these women's rapists should have been through, yet these men never committed the fucking crime, but they have to go through it because some women didn't fucking bother to go in. And it's like, it's not fair that some unsuspecting guy has to fucking take over this shit. He does not have to pick up your broken ass pieces. If you are upset about your rapist not going to jail and you fucking never even tried, that's your fucking problem, not society's problem, not some random guy who's being falsely accused. That's absolute bullshit.
Okay, so we've gotten a bit off topic here. Not that I mind. I love chatting with you, so it's always a pleasure. It's always a treat. Let's go ahead and move on with our next stuff. Oh, hold up a sec.
I'm told I'm a straight white male a lot.
I think I missed something here. Oh, no, I haven't. Okay. So, question. Do you feel as though feminism as a whole supports non-feminist women, which we kind of already... I am a little bit lost now. I apologize, everyone. Okay. So, has your gender ever been questioned by feminists because you are not a feminist? And this is about in the middle here. Only about 51.5% say no, they've never been questioned about their gender, which is good, but it's still unfortunate that almost half say yes to that. And then the follow-up, if so, how often does it occur? And about 49.2% say that it occurs quite frequently. And about 24% says quite rarely. And 26 is about in the middle. Have you ever been accused of being a man, Cassie?
Oh, so many fucking times. It's automatically assumed. I've had people tell me, like, there was this one debate. This other girl and I were both in. We were both arguing with the same feminist. And this feminist just all of a sudden says, you two have to be using fake profile pictures and everything, because there is no way that a woman could not identify as a feminist, because, feminists own women. But it happens all the fucking time. That's kind of why I post like selfies on Instagram specifically, so I can show, like, no, I am not I'm not a man. Okay, I'm a girl, and I do signed, verified kind of pictures all the time just to show people that. And I tag them in it all the time, and they're like, nope, this is fake. You're a straight white man. You're probably Christian. You're Republican. All this stupid fucking shit, as if it matters. Like, apparently my gender determines my ability, the value of what I have to say.
Oh, of course. I've gotten attacked quite often because I'm a straight-ish white male, and because I'm a white male, it means that, of course, I would be only interested in myself and nothing that feminism has to offer. I'm threatened by feminism. So that makes perfect sense why I have the opinions that I do.
Yeah.
Okay, so let us go to the next slide. Now I'm all caught up. Have you ever been told by a feminist that you're not a feminist because you want male attention? Still a little bit on the 50-50 here, but 55% say no, they haven't been told that. Have you ever been told by a feminist that you are not a feminist because of internalized misogyny? I love that phrase. That's so ingenious that they invented internalized misogyny.
You're kidding? Feminism is internalized misandry. They fucking just give us the shit that we need.
So 65.8% say yes, they have been accused of having internalized misogyny. Have you ever been told by a feminist that you're not a feminist because you're uneducated or ignorant? 77% said yes. Have you ever been told by a feminist that you're not a feminist because of some other sexist reason? 69.9% said yes to that. And the last one before we talk, have you ever seen a social media post that talks about non-feminist women in any of the 4 ways mentioned above? 94% say yes. So you're often on social media. Have you seen any of those examples or all of them?
The one about being uneducated and ignorant, I get that one several times a day. Several times. Especially on Instagram. Not as much on Instagram, though, since my account was removed. I'm having a lot of troubles with the site. They've taken to even deleting my selfies. Like, they delete everything of mine now. They didn't used to at all. So, yeah, I get told that I'm against feminism because I believe women are worthless, because I believe, or because I want to be a sex slave, chained naked to the stove, having to cook all the time, or whatever. I don't really know how that works. If I have to go grab ingredients, how does chaining me to a stove work? But, you know, that's how they think. I get told all sorts of fucking stupid shit about why I'm against feminism. And yeah, there's one account, I think she called herself Girl Rights What? To make fun of Karen. And she posts pictures of me and talks about how much I love the dick and why that she also talks about feminists who agree with me and like kind of try to work with me on Instagram. She'll post pictures of them and be like, this girl's a fucking whore who's only doing this because she wants a lot of dick. They post pictures of just absolute ridiculous things, and yeah, it happens all the time.
I'm sorry, I was thinking about you being naked and chained up. Well, what were you saying?
Right, huh? Good visual.
Yes. I do have to give a shout out to Cavasser's Mead for making me laugh my ass off and then trying to hold it back because Cassie was talking. He says, I have externalized misogyny. I beat my dick and call it Shirley.
Externalized.
All right, so on to the next one. We're making great time. We might touch on the next topic and just if there's time. Okay, how do you feel feminism has contributed to your area? Now, 40% or 99 people say, I'm unsure on whether or not feminism has positively or negatively contributed to my area. 16% have said that I believe that feminism has contributed neither positively nor negatively to my area. 29, I believe feminism has contributed negatively to my area, and 14 believe that they have contributed positively to their area. And we've kind of already talked about this on whether or not we need feminism in our area. But as far as the United States goes, I mean, there are a lot of laws that are geared towards women, such as um, divorce and child custody. That, it's like 85% of all child custody cases automatically assign full custody to women. Gender, as far as reproductive rights, that men essentially have none. Even selective service. I mean, women had the right to vote for over 100 years, and they have never once touched the issue of selective service. Oh, we want the right to vote, but we don't want any of the responsibility. You men go off and die in the war now. So, what about Canada? Has it contributed positively or negatively in your area?
I think it's negative. I mean, the Warren Farrell protest was in Toronto. In my city recently, there was a pro-life protest, and again, I'm pro-choice, but the feminists of the University of Alberta decided to actually make like a human shield around the fucking booth, and this booth was sanctioned. They had every right to be there. They fucking blocked off this booth completely, kind of like the whole Lauren Southern thing at the slut walk. And then there was I don't know if you heard about this. There was actually in my city there was a man who was riding bike with his daughter and his wife. One of their bikes broke, so they decided to go to a cycle shop to get the bike repaired. And the man was actually refused service because it was on one of their special events where only women and those who are of a non-binary gender are allowed to enter the shop. So this man was completely barred from this shop specifically because of his gender. Like, that isn't helping. That isn't doing anything. If I fucking had a store and I said no women, no non-binary genders allowed in this store 3 Sundays of the month, I would fucking get shit on all over, probably get killed. But it's perfectly okay to say that no men are allowed in the shop on certain days of the week. Like, that's ridiculous. It's not contributing fairly at all. The conscription thing, like, we don't have the draft, we have conscription. So you don't sign for it, you're just automatically subject to it, kind of deal. It's not entirely tied in with the vote, it's just tied in with your gender. If you're born a male, you're subject to conscription, and women have never been subject to conscription. And as I mentioned earlier, they were specifically given the vote so that they could vote in conscription, so that men could go and die for them in the world wars, when they're seeing like all these men either coming home wounded or never coming home at all, but they still needed soldiers out in these wars. Women were given the vote so that these men had no choice whether they joined the military or not.
I actually had heard about the story. I didn't know the details, but I did hear that a man was denied access to a bicycle shop because he was a man, and that was just like so awful. And you're perfectly right. And if anyone ever did that to a woman, it's like, well, you can't enter in. This is only for men. I mean, check out fraternities. There are schools across the United States are trying to shut down fraternities
But
on the basis that they
sororities
don't include women, but then have no problem having sororities that don't allow men in them.
yeah, there was a school in the States actually. What was it? I can't remember the name of the school, but a a female to male transgender was accepted into an all-female school. But when they tried to run for like student council or whatever, they were actually told they weren't allowed to because they didn't want any straight white males in power at their school. Transgender male.
Wow. No, I
Yeah.
hadn't heard about that one. That's quite comical.
Yeah, it's fucking
I can't
hilarious.
help but laugh at that situation.
This person actually never even had the surgery yet. They were still technically female with the parts and everything. They just identified as male. But they were not allowed to run for student council because they were male. Still allowed to go into the school. They accepted him and everything. Not allowed to run for council. No more straight white men are allowed to be in power. That's oppressive as shit.
Comment from the chat, which I am reading, but it's hard to get to all of them, so I apologize. Kirby says, I wish I was a woman. I want free drinks and free dinner so bad. I'm with you there, brother. I wish...
Yeah. Yo, this electrician at my construction site today, we've been bringing our barbecue to work, so we just barbecue in the parking lot and shit, because, you know, I guess, yeah, okay, Alberta's full of rednecks. But this fucking guy, he doesn't actually work with us, but he's at the same site doing electrical work. And I was bugging them about this chicken they kept talking about. Shows up at the work with this fucking plate of chicken for me today. It was fucking great. You can only get that if you're a girl. Big plate of chicken just for me.
So,
nobody else got chicken, just me.
all right, so we're almost done here. Do you feel as though feminists generally respect freedom of speech when it's used to speak about unfeminist ideas? Ooh, this is a big one. 84% say no, not at all. Only 2% said yes, completely. Haha, what a joke. Do you feel as though feminists generally respect conservative women? 74.8% said no, not at all. Do you feel as though feminists generally respect anti-choice women? 77.7% said no, not at all. Do you feel as though feminists generally respect stay-at-home mothers? This was a little bit all over the divided between somewhat and no, not at all. 54 said somewhat, 38% said no, not at all. Do you feel as though feminists generally respect men? 68.4% say no, not at all. So what is your take on the respect of men, stay-at-home mothers, anti-choice women, conservative, and the freedom of speech of unfeminist ideas?
Right. For freedom of speech, I have been told that I need to shut down my account so many times. It's stupid. Like, I have to. They're like, you have no idea what you're talking about. You need to shut this account down now. If you know it's good for the world, shut down your account because this is wrong. You need to be a feminist. And, like, I've had male feminists say that. I've had female feminists, like, all over the fucking place. When it comes to pro-life women, no, feminists have no respect for them whatsoever. And you can see it in debates. I get along with a lot more pro-lifers than I do with pro-choices. I usually end up in arguments. I've seen feminists literally just be like, ew, get away from me with your pro-life shit when somebody just happens to comment on a post or something. But my response to that usually is, I wish your mother was pro-choice with you. And when it comes to stay-at-home mothers, I would lean towards somewhat. Feminists try to say that they support women who choose to stay at home, but at the same time they say without feminism we would all be forced to stay at home, and they just assume that's exactly how life would be, except the majority of stay-at-home mothers would rather just stay at home and not work. Or sometimes, like, I know in some cases my friend's husband works out of town at the rigs, and she wanted to work at first, but with 2 kids, it's kind of made it easier since she's on her own for 2 weeks. And then she has 1 week where he's at home, and then 2 weeks where he's gone again, and that's kind of how his rotation goes. It actually just works out better for them that she stays at home. But yeah, they don't have much respect for stay-at-home mothers. Usually call them slaves and stuff like that. But it kind of goes back and forth because they do say women should have the option to stay at home if they want to.
So, positive improvement. Why is it almost every Steam chat I watch, there's at least one person, usually a guy, obsessed with attacking MGTOW? Well, there's this 1-800 number called 1-800-ATTACK-MGTOW, and it's a requirement on YouTube that you get at least one person into the chat. It's kind of a rule on YouTube. If you didn't do that, then YouTube would shut you down. All right, so from the most part, as far as the First Amendment issue, freedom of speech, I don't know what amendment you all have it in Canada, if you have amendments. But when it comes to freedom of speech, feminists are very quick about trying to shut down anyone from speaking ill about them, and they use their feelings as a way to trump any sort of freedom of speech, that you cannot insult them, you cannot criticize them. There's the whole ban bossy campaign, which I think is a smokescreen to banning the word bitch, because both bossy and bitch have the same number of letters and begin with the letter B. But, I mean, that's nothing but censorship right there. You're not allowed to call a woman bossy, and they want to make it a law. So feminists are very much against the idea of anyone having freedom of speech that doesn't say what they want them to say. Conservative women, I've seen some conservative women feminists out there, but for the most part, feminists seem to be against anyone that doesn't support what they want. So they're definitely against conservative women in that respect. Anti-choice is the same way. I agree with you about stay-at-home mothers. It's kind of a somewhat issue. They prefer women out there working, but face it, we all would love to stay home and do nothing. But let me tell you, because I'm disabled and I do stay at home and do nothing, I wish I was working. I seriously do. I hate it at home. All right, so in what way do you believe feminists generally have incorporated race issues? And this will be one of the last ones that we do in this section. 43.3% say, I believe feminists have incorporated race issues into feminists very poorly. 31.2% say that they have incorporated, so fairly poorly was 43%, very poorly was 31%, very well was 3%, and fairly well was 14.3%. So there is a large majority there saying that they've done it very poorly. Same thing with trans issues. 29% say fairly poorly, 42% say very poorly, 3.5% very well, 16.9% fairly well. So what about you, Cassie? What do you feel as feminists on the issues of race and trans?
Well, they've started trying to, but I think they're going about it the wrong way. They're trying to enforce people to absolutely accept everyone without having the choice, without having the knowledge. Their response usually is, "It's not my job to educate you." And it's like, if you want someone to agree with you, it is your fucking job to educate them. But they've started, like, the intersectional feminism is basically set up. It's based off the theory of systematic oppression, and it's based off including trans people, people of other races, and it says if you're feminine, they'll make little signs and stuff. If your feminism isn't trans inclusive, if it isn't anti-racism, then who is your feminism even for? You can't be a feminist if that's how you're going to be. But you can see feminists who have different opinions. Like, some of them will say some pretty racist things, some of them will say some pretty transphobic things, or say that you are transphobic because you don't want to have sex with a trans person. And it's just, you can be uncomfortable without hating someone. Yeah. I think they're going about it the wrong way. They're trying to enforce acceptance instead of, like, trying to teach acceptance. Create that education, create that knowledge, that understanding that people would need in order to accept certain things that they are ignorant of. Ignorance is something that is based off of people's life experiences, what they have come across with in their life. If you grew up in some fucking hick town in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, obviously you are not going to know anything about transgender people, or you're probably going to have a pretty I've dealt with a pretty limited number of races, so you're probably going to be racist, you're probably going to be transphobic. Is that technically your fault because you were born into a certain life? Not really. But if somebody wants that person to think differently, they are going to have to educate them. It is their job to educate them. But feminists usually just say, no, it's not my job. You should, agree with me automatically, kind of deal. They do a shitty job of it.
Yeah, very much so. So a joke from Professor Art. What's the difference between a joke and a dick to a feminist? A feminist can take 30 dicks, but they can't take a single joke.
That's great.
All right, so let me get my window back up here. The next question is, are you a transgendered woman? 17 said, yes, they are. The next section is actually about transgendered women, but since we have such a small sample size, I don't feel that it's really representative of transgendered women. If you take the survey yourself or you're just happen to look on here, you can see some of those questions. Since we moved through that section pretty quickly for why women are not for feminism, we'll go ahead and go through some of these real quick while I have the
washroom quickly.
what's up?
Sorry. I'm gonna run to the washroom quickly.
Okay, have fun.
We'll do my best.
All right, let's see what's going on with the chat here. I'd rather get ate by a shark than have sex with a trans person. Have fun with that. I hear that the skin is kind of like your earlobe, so if you want to rub your dick on your ear, that would be what it's like to fuck a shark. I'm just saying. And that's a very good point. Just because you don't want to have sex with a certain kind of person doesn't mean that you're against that person. My comments are not updating properly. Okay, so I'm trans-zoological. I'm half penguin. Who said Windows 98? Blasphemy. Actually, Windows 98 wasn't too bad. I'll be right back. I gotta take care of something real quick. If she comes here, just keep her entertained.
Sorry about that.
All right, I'm back. So we were having a fun discussion about having sex with sharks. So you missed out.
Damn. My favorite pastime.
Okay, so won't really read the results of this. You can go ahead and see it on the screen, but I'm just going to ask our guest here. Have you ever had your intelligence insulted for supporting men's rights?
Yep. Apparently men have all their rights. They don't need anything else, and I'm an idiot for thinking they have issues.
Well, you are, but for different reasons. I'm just kidding. Have you ever been, well, you've already answered this, told to kill yourself for supporting men's rights?
Yep, all the time.
Well, I don't want you to die. You're a very lovely person.
Thank you. I don't want to die either.
Has anyone wished death, assault, or some other horrific instance upon you for supporting men's rights? We kind of already answered that. Have you ever had personal details about you linked online for supporting men's rights?
Nope. Don't think there's anything on the internet that I didn't put there myself.
Yeah, luckily, fortunately, 95% of the people answered that no, they haven't had that happen to them. And me, I've put myself out there publicly because I was tired of like living two lives. Like part of me is like, well, I didn't want people to know that I supported men's rights, and the other half, I wanted everyone to know. Leading a double life is very hard to do. So I'm just like, you know what? I told everyone that I did it. I'm still waiting to see the fallout from it. Have you lost friends because you support men's rights?
Yeah.
I actually have, but it was more specifically Gamergate, because I'm an active supporter with that a woman called me a misogynist for supporting Gamergate. This is an interesting story. Basically, what happened is because I'm a writer, and my website is dedicated to writing education, specifically world building. And I posted an article on my writing account for a world building article, and it was directed at Gamergate, because I feel that, you know, there are game designers there who might benefit from knowing how to do world building. So this woman contacts me and says, well, why is that directed at Gamergate? And I explained the reason. She's like, well, no, why do you support Gamergate? And, you know, honestly, I've gotten so much beneficial support from Gamergate in relation to my writing, in relation to my disability. It's hard for me to think that Gamergate's not in my life. And she's like, well, you know, I've been abused by Gamergate. And this woman's like, oh, people have come on and told me that I'm not a real gamer and harassed me and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, I'm very sorry to hear that. And I would have normally asked her, okay, tell me who these people were. I want to know who they are. But this was the same day that I was going to be doing a live event for Cytheria to bring people on and to give a positive message to her, that we were going to compile a whole video for her. And she's like, well, I already know you're a misogynist because you didn't come and ask me you didn't care about the fact that people have harassed me. And I'm like, why should it be my responsibility? It's said and done in the past. But she basically ignored me because I didn't ask about the people who harassed her.
Nobody asks me more about what happened. It's just a fucking comment online. We're on a game. I don't understand. You get over it. It's like kind of like when guys play sports and they trash talk each other, try to psych each other out kind of deal. If she's going to feed into it, that's just going to make the game easier for everyone else. She's a fucking idiot.
So, question from whatever, who first says nice boots, but do you support Gamergate at all?
Yeah. I'm still learning about it, but from what I've heard about it and stuff, I wrote a few things about the Law and Order episode. I've read the Know Your Meme article about it, and I've had a few people go ahead and explain it to me, and I've read a few articles about it. So what I've read, I pretty much support Gamergate completely. I've never seen a reason not to, actually. Yeah, I've never come across a reason not to. I see as if girls are getting like made fun of and picked on for being in a video game, well, I've seen guys play video games and they do the fucking same thing to each other. So I don't understand why they're asking for special treatment in video games as well as real life. That just sounds like fucking stupid. And now there's all this shit about redesigning video games to fulfill certain political agendas, and that just doesn't. That sounds like a violation of like freedom of expression. I don't play video games. The only one I play is Crash Bandicoot Warped from like 1,000 years ago. I still have my original PlayStation. But from everything I've seen, like there is no reason whatsoever to be redesigning video games to fulfill certain agendas. That's just ridiculous. That's like saying books need to be rewritten because they don't meet the criteria. There's not equal representation, and they're doing the same with television and movies. Now the gaming industry is being fucking targeted for it, and it's just stupid.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. How often do you receive harassment for supporting men's rights?
Pretty much every single time I do a post. I used to post about like on Instagram specifically. I used to post up to 20 times a day, usually 5 to 20 times a day. Lately, because I've been working out of town on this job, I haven't been posting as much, and I'm still pretty down about my account being taken down. I'm not ready to let go of it, so I sort of hate my new account as well. So I'm trying to get back on that ball for that. But yeah, I get bitched out every single fucking day. I'm an awful person because I'm not constantly talking about women. And I get comments saying, well, you don't even talk about women on your page. Like, why aren't you? And I'm like, okay, men currently have more issues than women do, and there are plenty of posts where I discuss about women's issues that aren't being properly addressed by feminism, like the whole feminist issue that's not being addressed.
Okay. Now, you've stated that you do receive harassment. How severe is it?
Mild. Nothing big, just comments on the internet. You laugh, you get over it, you move on to the next fucking idiot comment.
Now, did you hear about the honey badgers in Calgary? It was brought up in chat.
Yes, I did. I was actually in Skeptor's video for that. I have not faced that yet, but at the expo, I was actually planning on going next year as a sidewalk astronomer with the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada. So I don't really know how that's going to turn out because I'm not actually going as an anti-feminist or an egalitarian or men's rights activist. I'm going with a different group specifically for something that I'd like to use to kind of further me in science. So if people start like recognizing me or something, and then feminists try to sort of like think about it, it'd be kind of funny to see them try to get me kicked out or whatever. Because I am a woman trying to get into science, and I'd be there specifically doing something for that. So that would be interesting to see how it plays out next year or this coming year.
So Why Not says, End Feminism is more genuine than the honey badgers, I think. Remember, Why Not? I am a honey badger, so thank you for that comment. Not a well-known member, but I am one. All right, so where do you receive your harassment most? Online or real life?
Just online. I've only had one person, or two girls in real life try to convince me that we needed feminism, but they weren't really harassing me. They were just trying to debate with me, but they weren't really good at that. So, but still get along with them both technically, so yeah.
All right, and with online harassment, where do you receive it? Facebook, Reddit, Tumblr, Twitter, YouTube, other?
Instagram. I've never had any feminist kind of stalker people on anywhere else, but there are feminists who basically follow me specifically so they can bitch me out every single time they see a new post. There's this one Kenny Lane chick who used to come to all my posts talking about how I need to delete my account because I do no good with it and I'm just a fucking bitch who's angry and hate myself, and she goes on and on calling me a cunt and shit, and then she goes off about how I'm the angry one. But I've had a few feminists like that regularly come to my account. I don't block or delete anyone because I feel like if I have the right to say what I want, so do you. So if you want to disagree with me, go right ahead. I'll make fun of you for it.
All right, and we're almost done with this. Have there ever been a campaign of people instructed to harass you? Like they rallied up a bunch of people to come in and it's like, let's give her a really hard time.
Yeah, there are a lot of Instagram accounts. There's a lot of feminist accounts that will actually take screenshots of my account and say, I posted on their account and say, oh, this woman is such a terrible fucking person. You need to go and block her and you need to report her so that we can get this account deleted. Or they'll have like, I'll get like 10 feminists. It's usually between 3 to 10 feminists on my page at once commenting on as many posts as possible. So it's like the followers I have on Instagram are fucking great because they're fucking on that shit. So it's hardly ever just me on my own dealing with the feminist arguments. A lot of times other people are jumping in for arguments that I can't always keep up with. I used to be a lot more on Instagram. I used to sit on Instagram for hours at a time, but I kind of let go of my life and I need to get back onto that. But my followers on that site are fucking great. They always jump on that shit. It's pretty nice because I can't always get to every single one, but I hate leaving a feminist comment unanswered.
So there's a question by Polar Bear. What do you think of the White Feather campaign? Are you familiar with that?
That was the campaign, I believe, started in UK, but also extended to the United States, in which women, and it was actually a male in the military who promoted this at first, or he supported a woman who came up with the idea. They would place a white feather on any males that they did not see wearing a uniform or were just happened to be walking by going about their days. They'd place a white feather on them to shame them for not going to the war to die for women. I think that's disgusting as fuck. It's basically like, well, conscription hasn't worked for you, so we're gonna fuck with you anyways, because suicide rates spiked through the fucking roof during that time. And yeah, that was a terrible thing. I really hope that if there is another world war, no fucking dumb bitch will come up with that shit again. I guess some people would be covered with up to hundreds in a single day of these stupid white feathers. Just ridiculous.
I want to say that I'm really impressed that you are aware of that because not many people do. Do you listen to Girl Writes What? Because I know she's talked about it.
I try to, but again, I'm a technophobe, so I actually suck when it comes to keeping up with other YouTubers. I usually try to just get to the comments and recommendations that people leave on my account and stuff. The ones that I've gone and done things with, I try to pay more attention to them. I go out of my way to be like, oh yeah, I should watch a video by this person because they did this thing or whatever, and check it out and see what I can do for that. But when I first started this, I didn't know much about feminism at all. Had no idea even what the wage gap was. But a lot of people have been sending me things from all throughout the history of feminism, different things that I can look at in regards. So I've been learning. Like, I personally do not support the movement from the beginning. I don't say first wavers are better. I don't say second wavers are better. And I don't say it's only third wave feminism that I have an issue with. I have an issue with all feminism. It has not worked out equally for anyone since the beginning. And that is a reality of the situation.
Okay, so have you ever been assumed to be a cisgender or heterosexual for supporting men's rights?
Yeah.
I guess that goes without saying at this point. Okay. And the last question for our interview, as far as this survey goes, has your political affiliation ever been assumed to be right-wing or conservative for supporting men's rights?
I'm either a conservative or a Republican. That's what I'm always told, but I don't really identify with any political party, except for like that Rhino party that said they would, what did they do? They said they'd count the 1,000 islands to make sure that the Americans didn't steal any or something. They were like a troll group. They were just kind of making fun of politics, but they were pretty funny.
All right, so I leave it to the chat room. I'm sorry I didn't get to all of your questions, but if there's any quick questions you want to ask Cassie here, go ahead and put them in, and I'll try to read them as best as I can. I've not had 44 people watch me at once, so that's awesome. I need to get more beautiful women on this channel. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask now. Who is your favorite female actor?
I don't really watch TV or movies, so I don't really have one. Yeah, I can't think of one.
Someone wants to know if you are not cis or straight.
I have dated girls in the past, but I used to exclusively date girls, but I don't exclusively date girls anymore. I don't really know about my sexuality. I am born and still a woman, not confused about my parts, pretty happy with them. But when it comes to my sexuality, not really sure how to answer that. I know, like, for the last few years, I've only ever dated guys, and I think I was 20 years old the first time I dated a guy, actually. It's a weird kind of topic for me. I don't really know how to explain that one.
All I heard is that I still have a chance. So, Ryo Girl 18 asks, do you think that feminism push into other communities are a sign of them dying?
That's a good question. And yeah, it's like a desperation. They're begging to hold on, to grab a hold of whoever they can. They want to, anyone they feel that basically feeding off of people's needs, people that feel underrepresented or whatever. They're basically trying to get anyone they can to support them still. They're going after race issues, transgender issues, gay issues, but at the same time you can see feminists saying that gays and racial issues need to be put on hold so that we could all just band together and work towards feminism. We've got, I think, Madonna and was the other one, the one that won the Oscar or whatever, Patricia Arquette, they were making those kind of claims, and that's just kind of ridiculous. But but you see a lot of feminists going around saying things like to men's rights activists, that saying that men's rights activists don't even help gay men, and it's like, you realize gay men are still gay, or still men, I mean, right? Like, they still have issues that are not being addressed by feminism. They're still subject to the draft or conscription, and feminists are not dealing with that. Feminists are not having themselves subject to that kind of thing.
All right. As far as my response to that, I think that women's feminists push into other communities kind of started off from a position of authority, that they felt that they were in such a strong position that they started to expand. And in some ways, I think they expanded a little bit too quickly, especially when they went to Gamergate. And us nerds, we wanted to be left alone. We didn't want to be really in the middle of anything. And it's like I always say, you woke a sleeping giant. And once you started attacking our games, we fought back. And I think at that point, from there, feminism still tried to explore into other places, but Gamergate inspired so much in the metal music, so much in comic books, even in writing with Sad Puppies. They were directly inspired by what Gamergate did. So I think that's what we're seeing now, is that they're starting to die, but they're still trying to spread themselves everywhere they can to try to get power against Gamergate. And yes, I do know that some feminists are a part of Gamergate, but for the most part, men's rights and Gamergate run very parallel to each other. There's been a couple of questions about Don't Be That Girl campaign, Alberta. Do you know anything about that?
No, I don't. Actually.
I
Dopey?
believe the campaign is like saying, just because you regret rape, it's not rape. They've been putting up posters. I don't know if that's referring to Don't Be That Girl. I think it is, though. She's looking it up right now. Someone wants to know if you want to get married to them.
Obviously.
My response is get in line. I was here first. Trying to get to all your questions. So, eep. There's a question about whether or not your family knows about your political affiliations as far as the men's rights and all of that.
Yes, they do. Support me completely.
Oh, here's a question for me. That's nice. What's up?
Most people, like, in my life, it's lame. They don't actually want to talk about it. They're like, okay, well, Cassie says it's it's right, then we'll just agree with it. So she shuts up because apparently I talk a lot sometimes.
So
When I'm
someone
interested
asks,
in stuff.
someone asks me, how did I get involved with the honey badgers? That actually, it's a pretty long story, but it's pretty interesting. I'll try to paraphrase it. Basically, one of the members started up a comic called goodguycomic.com. Check it out. It's a very great comic. I think he has over 40 comics up so far of it. He's in his third issue. I really wanted to help him out, so I designed a website for him for free. As a thank you, he invited me into a special Skype chat that included the honey badgers, and I just sort of became adopted by the honey badgers. They're like, you're here, so you're now one of us. So that's basically what happened. Do you think that feminism is like a cult?
Definitely. I have to be a feminist because I'm a girl. There's no possible way I could respect myself as a woman if I'm not a feminist. There's no way I could believe that I believe in equality or that men and women should be treated equally or any of that if I do not submit to feminism. I have to be a feminist in order to have any kind of respect, any kind of desire for self-governance, and like it's just fucking stupid. I need feminism in order to be able to do anything, basically. I wouldn't be able to get a job without feminism.
There has been some questions about men's rights in Edmonton. I know they have a big group up there. Do you know anything about that?
I have not actually ever been in contact with them. Not many people know where I'm from. But yeah, I am from Edmonton. But yeah, I have not actually been in contact with that group. I actually just looked this up. The Don't Be That Girl campaign. I didn't know the posters were up in Edmonton. I've been working out of town for the last few weeks on this construction site, but now I kind of want to go looking for these fucking posters in Edmonton because that would be great. But yeah, no, I've had no affiliation with that group whatsoever, actually.
Okay, and yes, the person mentioned was Brian Martinez. He is a really, really great guy. Check out the comic. Leave a comment on a few of them if you can, because I know he'll love to hear from them. It's a really great comic. It kind of gives you everything about the male perspective of romance, especially growing up and trying to be a good guy and the difficulties that come with that. So we'll take a couple of more. Do you have any opinions on the MGTOW?
For me, I have a lot of friends who are MGTOW. I've had friends who I've actually introduced to MGTOW. It's kind of like, oh, there's this group, and they have some really interesting shit. Like, I've learned about gynocentrism through it, and it's a really interesting concept, and I believe in that concept. A lot of the stuff, a lot of the things that comes out of it, I really, really like. And then, obviously, with every group, you have the extremists, like the ones who, tell me that if I was a real anti-feminist, I would have aborted my son because there's no way a woman who's against feminism would actually have a son in this world and shit like that. But that has happened very, very seldom. I get trolled by a few of them, but it's really like no fucking big deal. And some are, quite literally the opposite of feminists. But a lot of it is extremely fucking interesting, but that's something I generally kind of just play by ear. It makes out kind of seems to mean something different to every person I talk to who identifies with it. Like I've mentioned before, not in this video, but like there's this one guy who's in MGTOW. He goes around to a bunch of the accounts on Instagram, the female accounts, and like sends us rape threats and harasses us. He watches all my videos and then he comes to my Instagram to tell me about what a fucking evil slut I am and what a whore his mother was and just like really fucked up shit. But that doesn't happen very often. There's this guy Leighton who's probably one of my most favorite people I've met since I've started this, And he's a really great person. He will call me out on my shit. If my posts seem to be lacking in quality, he'll be like, yo, this fucking suck. What are you doing? So like I go back. I'm kind of neutral on the stance. Like, do what you want. If that's how you feel the best response is, then maybe that's gonna work. But who's to say really what is and what isn't going to work? I personally do not really agree with the laissez-faire kind of approach. I'd rather just kind of be like, jump in the game. I'd rather just argue with feminists on a regular basis. I find that a lot of MGTOWs would rather just argue with non-feminist women, which that just doesn't really help the situation. But a lot of them are very laissez-faire, and they'll just kind of have really interesting conversations with you, teach you about some really interesting shit that you never thought about before. I've learned a lot about what I talk about through MGTOWs and stuff. So you really got to play it by ear when it comes to that. At least that's how I feel.
So a couple more questions. I know Vedantron has been asking this a couple of times. Sorry, I haven't gotten to it. How did you become so confident and calm in standing up to the feminists and social justice warrior bullies? She has kind of already answered that throughout the video, but is there anything quick you want to say about that?
I feel untouchable. Like, I'm a girl, so it kind of makes it hard to say that I'm protecting my privilege. I'm only half white, and I have a history of dating girls, so I feel like a lot of the shit that they throw back or send towards those who are against feminism, they can't really send that kind of argument to me. I'm an atheist. I support religion still, but I'm not okay with it being in the laws or anything. But I'm not an anti-theist or anything. But a lot of the things that feminists seem to throw as reasons why you're not a feminist, they can't really work with me. So I feel pretty untouchable in that sense. I don't feel like, yeah, that's pretty much it. I feel like they can't really do anything to me. And yeah.
So Nemesis Diablo, I see what you've said there. He says that he subbed to me. Thank you. Didn't know about my channel before, but he definitely likes you, Cassie, and liked the way that I did this video today. I'm going to end on that note, although I do ask that Cassie stay on a few minutes after the videos end. Is there anything else that you'd like to say real quick that we may have not have covered?
No, not at all. Thank you for having me and everything, of course. And thanks everyone for your questions and comments and telling me about that Don't Be That Girl campaign here. So I'll definitely have to look into that.
I forget who was it that said it in the chat. I know a couple of people asked about it, but just thank those people. I thank everyone for coming out today. Like I said, this is the most I've ever had on my video at once. Usually I get one or two, so it's a nice welcome surprise. So is there anything you wish to shill? This is the shilling time.
To what?
To shill, to let people know about, donate to Patreon or events that you might be doing or you want to raise awareness to?
I don't have anything. I don't have Patreon or anything. I don't do this for money. I just do it because I like it, and it's been a lot of fun doing it, actually. It's kind of helped me get over my social anxiety. There is a video I have about a single father who was trying very hard to see his son for his birthday. I actually don't know if that time has passed. He did contact me and say he had enough to fix parts of his car, but he didn't end up getting enough to actually make the trip from, I believe it's all the way to Illinois it's a 10-hour drive from where he is, to see his son. So that would be listed in the video, but I haven't checked if that's closed yet. I don't know if he missed his son's birthday or not, but that's the only thing I was really doing. Most of the stuff I just usually do myself.
Okay, I think Professor Art's going to donate to the patriarchy in your name. Oh, I would love to get Lauren on here. I actually have interviewed Sierra McCord. So if you want to go back and look at that, Kirby, I think I broke it up into like 4 videos. So But yeah, she was one of the first people I interviewed her, and she's awesome. As far as my shilling goes, the only big thing that's coming up is the Phoenix Gamergate in Phoenix, which is set for August 29th. I have a tending.io page, but if you just tweet to the hashtag GG and PHX, I can get a hold of you, or look up my Twitter account, GGMad_cat. It actually stands for good guy and not Gamergate, but it doesn't really matter. But yeah, go ahead, and if you're in Arizona or you might be visiting Arizona, please come out and check it out. I'm not revealing the location right now, but it is set up, and I can promise you that there will be arcade games there. So, but Cavasier, if you just tweet to the GG in PHX, it's a hashtag. I can go ahead and get you the information for that on Twitter. Anyways, that does it for me. I thank you, Cassie, for coming out today. I've been wanting to do this a long time with you, so this has been a really great pleasure for me.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, and this is Mad Cat signing off.